because a tire more than 6 years old will delaminate all by itself. And when that happens, we might have the kind of loss of control that could put us and our family and others in harm's way.
Do you know what tire tread separation is and how it could be putting you in danger? That's what we're going to ask the lawyer on today's episode. Hi, everybody. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com, and my guest is attorney Michael Warshauer with the Warshauer Law Group in Atlanta. Michael, thank you for making some time to answer our questions today.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Forgive my Corona haircut, but
Hi.
Good to see you, and let's get started.
I feel your pain with the Corona haircut, but we'll do the best we can. So when we're talking tire tread separation, we're talking specifically with big rigs. Is that correct?
Well, any tire is capable of having a tire separation problem. A tire separation problem is merely where the various layers of a tire come apart. It can be caused by a variety of things. One is a manufacturing defect. The parts just aren't glued together right.
Okay.
Another is if you run a tire that's underinflated, it'll overheat to the point where the glue will melt and it'll separate. And another is where you hit a road hazard and you cause a physical problem that causes the tire to separate. Then what occurs is the tire falls into multiple pieces. And if that's on a steer tire on a big truck, that could cause a catastrophic loss of steering and all manner of havoc to those of us near that truck. If it happens on a passenger car, same thing could happen. But even on the back wheels of a big tractor trailer, if a piece of that tire comes off and hits a passenger vehicle, it could cause a loss of control for the passenger vehicle or the trailer to sway in a way that could also cause problems for nearby passenger vehicles.
So I think anybody who's spent much time on the highways, you've seen those big pieces of rubber on the side of the road. First of all, some of those from 18-wheelers can be really big pieces, can't they?
Well, they can be. You know, it's a big tire. The vast majority of tires out on the road today are retreads. Tire separation is the most common failure mode of a steel-belted tire. And steel-belted radial tires are the most common tires that we see on all vehicles, not just big trucks, but regular passenger cars too. So what we're seeing when we see that on the roadway is typically a delamination between the retread, if you will, and the casing of the tire or the carcass of the tire. And that can cause loss of control or loss of control for those of us who impact that.
So you mentioned at the top, Michael, all the different things, reasons that tire tread separation could occur. It would seem to me that when a case comes to you, it's got to be difficult maybe to figure out, is it because of manufacturer defect or is there a pothole or it could figure out what the problem is that caused it, correct?
Well, we're going to look at a variety of causes. Anytime that we are asked to investigate or help a family that has had a vehicle wreck, whether it's with a big truck or the passenger car, that a tire is involved, the first thing we're always going to do is look at the tire. Often the fight is what caused that to separate. Manufacturing defect, underinflation, or road hazard. Those are the big three. So we have to look at that, and they each have a telltale signature, if you will, that will help us understand what that is. They will tell us, the tire will tell us what the problem is. So I guess this kind of segues into, well, whose fault is it? We're going to look at four entities when we're thinking about this, whether on a big truck case. Let's take that, for example.
Okay.
First, we're going to look at the fleet owner, the truck owner themselves. Have they used a tire that's too old? Have they used a tire that's been retreaded too many times? Have they used a tire that's been improperly repaired, meaning that they've done a repair to the plies? Anything outside the middle of the tire is what's called a ply repair, and that's illegal because it's dangerous. So we're going to look at that. We're going to have they used, it's legal to use a retread on any tire on a truck. The only vehicles in America that can't use retreads on their steering wheels are buses. But everybody else can use retreads. And retreads by themselves are not bad provided they're done right and properly inspected. So we're going to look at the owner. We're going to look at the driver every single day. Literally every time that driver gets into his big rig, he needs to make sure his tires are properly inflated. So he's going to look for inflation. He's going to look for tread depth. Only 1/8 of an inch is legal. It can't be less than 1/8 of an inch on the front wheels and 1/16 of an inch on the back wheels. So it doesn't take a lot of tread to be legal, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's safe. So we're going to look at the driver and his decisions. And then the driver also needs to look at these tires for damage to the sidewalls. Are there chunks of tread missing? Are the tires wearing so unevenly that they are telling him his trailer is going down the road at an angle? All of these things are going to be clues to help us understand whether the driver's at fault. The next thing we're going to look at is the repair facility. This truck might have been in for a number of repairs, maybe new tires. Maybe the person who retreaded those tires or fixed a run-of-the-mill nail hole in a tire, which is legal to repair, provided it's in the tread surface and not on the sidewall. Maybe they should have pulled that tire out of service. So we're going to look at the repair facility. Did they fail to catch a defect in a tire that maybe wasn't visible by the driver? And then, of course, as we've both talked about already today, we're going to look at the manufacturer. That becomes a product liability case. And we're going to look at the tire. We're going to see whether that there are cords in there and whether those cords look like they've been dipped properly. We call that a dipping error, but whether they're still covered with adhesive. Sometimes you'll see white tread in the tire and you go, wait a minute, this whole thing is supposed to be black. Why is that possible? Well, that could be a manufacturing defect. And we're going to look, has this tire been retreaded too many times? These big truck tires can last 600,000 miles, but not any longer than that. Now it's assuming that you retread them multiple times. After that, they need to be off the road. So those are the people we're going to look at: the owner, the driver, the repair facility, and the manufacturer. All of that from a simple, what seems simple, a bad tire. And it's the difference between lawyers who know what they're doing, who know to look at everything, and folks who don't. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's important to choose firms like Warshauer Law Group, because we have experience suing the owners, the drivers, the repair facilities, and indeed the manufacturers.
You mentioned that it might be a road hazard that caused the separation. Does that mean then there's no recovery involved? There's no liability there?
Well, it depends. How long has it been between the road hazard and the time of the wreck? So if the road hazard happens 15 seconds between the separation and the road hazard, I think it's hard to blame that on the driver. Mm-hmm. The driver's riding down the road. He hits an axle that fell out of somebody's car, and it slices through his drive tires. And there was nothing he could do to stop that from happening. That's really not going to be his fault. If, on the other hand, we see that evidence of the sidewall cut in one of the tires that caused the event looks like it's been there a long time, then that is going to be the driver's fault. That might be the owner's fault. That might be the repair facility's fault. So we're going to look at all of those things. But time does matter. Absolutely.
And, I know, Michael, people don't come to you to tell you everything went great with tires on big rigs. They come to you when there's been a problem. But if you had to guess, an educated guess, are there a lot of 18-wheelers out there with tires that are not safe?
I think there are a lot of 18-wheelers out there that are running on tires that are underinflated. An underinflated tire is an unsafe tire. What happens is the sidewall, which should be straight, bends, and it bends, and it bends, and it bends. And that creates heat. And it gets so hot that melts, for lack of a better term, the glue that holds the tire together. Then that tire separates. And when that separates, all the things we've talked about could happen. So it is a cause that is too common. It's not an everyday event. Most of the things we see on the side of the road, nothing happened. They're what we call benign events. No big deal. Hopefully the driver would notice that or hear it and pull over and repair his tire. But keep in mind, it's legal. If you have an axle that has 4 tires, like in a trailer, tandems in the back, and one tire goes bad, you can take that tire off and run with 3, provided that you're not above the weight for the combined 3 tires. We certainly don't encourage people to do that. And if we did see that, it would raise some red flags that maybe this driver was a whole lot more interested in getting to where he was going than getting to where he was going safely.
Michael, lots of great information. As usual, thank you so much for helping us out and ask our questions today.
Well, I want to finish with one thing, and that's for all of us, for all of the consumers out there, because at the end of the day, we all have cars and we're all consumers. And that is, we all need to look at our tires and see if they're too old. Sometimes we have a car we rarely drive. If that tire's more than 6 years old, we need to assume it's unsafe, because a tire more than 6 years old will delaminate all by itself. And when that happens, we might have the kind of loss of control that could put us and our family and others in harm's way. So thank you for letting me talk to you. It's always a pleasure to share what we know.
Thank you, Michael. That's going to do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been attorney Michael Warshauer of Atlanta. If you want the best information or you're ready to choose a lawyer that lawyers choose, make sure to go to askthelawyer.com first. And also, please take a sec to like, share, and subscribe by clicking below. Thanks for watching. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com.